Hello, hello. I'm looking a little bit frumpy. I just hopped out the shower and
What
Esther's
what a
looking
way to
extra.
start. I did a little outfit of the day, so I'm looking
Yeah,
nice.
Esther's looking extra put together and I'm looking extra frumpy. But just hopped out the shower. Esther has particular things that she wants to speak on today, but she does need to scoot back a little bit and a little bit that way. And then move the
That's
mic a
crazy.
tiny bit, and then we're all set to go. So, yeah,
Golly, so do the sleep.
a little bit, a little bit.
He did work today, and I did not. But he got off quite early, so
I did. I did get off earlier than
get some
usual.
energy maybe.
Dang.
All right, so
I'm
today's
usually very
topic,
energetic.
I know, and I take it for granted.
Mm.
Ah!
Fair.
That's the life of an extrovert that's always happy. Then
Mm.
when you're not, people are like, hey, that's
Mm.
not what we expect out of you.
I see.
Fix it. Except for me, because I'm a quality wife. I look after you. Huh?
Drumsticks.
Dude's absolutely crazy. Okay, so today's topic is a bit of a hot topic.
Really?
Yes,
Okay,
because
let's hear it.
today's topic is modesty, which
Okay.
people have a lot of opinions about. So, disclaimer
Okay.
at the beginning. These are just our thoughts and opinions.
Mm.
And
They are? That's all that
it's
is.
based on truth and
Okay.
on the word
The word, which
of
is.
God, the
Okay.
Bible.
Okay.
But still, this is our interpretation and because there's nowhere that it specifically goes into depth about modesty. So,
What doesn't specifically go into depth about modesty?
the Bible?
Where?
Huh?
Well, I, I'm obviously
There's not
not
like,
gonna speak on this subject as much as yourself.
true, but I do think it's
And
important to
no,
also
all I'm
have the
saying,
male
of course, no,
perspective.
I have stuff to say. Don't take me wrong.
Wonderful.
Don't get me wrong. But all I was gonna say is I will be sometimes asking you to clarify things that I might know the answer to, but
Mm,
I'm not asking you for me.
wonderful.
First off, if you type in the word modesty on Google, the quality of not being too proud or confident about yourself or your abilities.
Exactly.
Number two, propriety in dress,
Mm.
speech, or conduct.
Let me stop you right there because I have this verse that I pulled up that is like
Okay.
the verse when people in the church speak on modesty.
Okay.
It's 1 Timothy 2 9 and 10. I want the women to dress modestly with decency and propriety,
Mm.
adorning themselves not with elaborate hairstyles, gold, or pearls, or expensive clothes, but with good deeds appropriate for women who profess to worship God. Now, I take this modestly as what you just said,
Mm.
where it's more about how you act and about not physical modesty. Although
Okay.
it does say not adorning yourself with elaborate blah, 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 which none of that says anything about clothing either. It's just extra stuff. So I also interpret that as just not being like
Okay.
lavish and like excessive.
Propriety, the quality or state of being proper or suitable. Appropriateness, a conformity to what is socially acceptable in conduct or speech. These are simply Webster dictionary definitions that I'm reading.
Which I think is great because a lot of people also, when they speak on modesty, it's just literally about what you wear and don't
Mm-hmm.
wear. And I think it's a far more in depth
Mm.
thing than that.
The word of
Now,
propriety, sorry,
golly.
translated shamefacedness in the King James Version,
Mm.
conveys the idea of a sense of shame, comma, modest. It is not the idea of awkwardness that would cause one to become easily embarrassed without cause.
That's interesting. I don't know how I feel about that wording.
Shamefacedness and awkwardness, those different words that I was using just now.
Yeah, like
Oh, well, I'm not
shame.
using them. I'm just
Shame is a triggering word for people around modesty because a lot of people are shamed into modesty, and then once they're able to get away from that, they're like, "Ugh,
shamed.
throw this all out the window because people made me feel like guilty or ashamed if I wore certain things."
Mm.
So then they're like, forget what everybody thinks. I'm gonna do whatever I want.
Okay.
So
So
I don't like to associate shame with, because I don't want to shame women that don't dress to what I think is modest,
okay.
because that's not helpful and that doesn't make them
So
wanna do
you're
any
wanting people
different.
to dress more like you, or you're dressing the way you dress for a reason?
I'm dressing the way I dress for a reason, and
Okay.
I would never tell somebody you should dress more like me.
Okay.
And I would never.
That's how you worded
want...
it a little bit just then, so I just
Oh,
wanted to.
no, that is not what I meant.
Okay. Well, no, I don't
but
think that's what you meant either, but I just, yeah.
But my approach would never be to make somebody feel guilty or bad about how they're currently dressing
Never?
to make them change.
Never?
Almost never.
Okay.
That would be like a last resort, in which case I feel like I still probably wouldn't, just because I don't think that's generally ever helpful.
All right, so continue.
Okay, so then I have this other verse.
Okay.
Romans 14:13, which is like my main point.
Oh, you're
Therefore, let us not pass judgment on one another. Instead, make up your mind not to put any stumbling block or obstacle in the way of another brother or sister. Which is like the entire preface of why I dress modestly.
Okay.
Because the worst thing to me, you have sin yourself, and then you have making other people sin.
Oh, whoops, the camera's on me. Sorry.
You're good.
It's just it's gonna be super annoying for people for the last because I'm sorry, right now I'm not distracted. I'm looking stuff up as she's speaking on the same computer that's being used to switch cameras, so I missed it there. So sorry, you were staring at my blank face and me scraping the tip of my nose. Anyway, continue. It is on Esther now.
My train of thought. There's sinning, and then there's a verse about how it's even worse if you encourage or cause other people to sin. Not that I think if you dress immodestly, you're responsible for somebody else sinning. That's not the case. They're responsible for their own sin. But like this verse says, we shouldn't do anything that's going to put a stumbling block so that somebody can then sin. So that's the main reason that I dress modestly, to not stumble others. And I think it is obviously more glorifying to God and my husband to dress modestly.
Yeah, I would agree.
So
well, you just have a lot of people now, and interestingly enough, recently, depending on when this video comes out, recently you've also had a lot of people. Now, this is obviously much even farther into even past just modesty, but like people that post crazy stuff online. You have some of those people actually regretting that they've done it, taking their life having done it, turning to Christianity after it. And people come from Christianity from everywhere, and everyone is welcome and forgiven and able to accept Jesus as their Lord and Savior for whatever sin they have lived in, done, including you and myself. So I think people know inherently that it's not really a good thing either. I think it is a hardening of the conscience and a continuous, deliberate, usually. A lot of people want to say, oh, people just come from different backgrounds. People have different ideas of this. And I don't think it's fair to say that there's just no thought or care put towards it. I think it's a purposeful decision that's just like, oh, I don't care. This doesn't matter to me. I know it's not the best choice, but it's just not something that is there's so many different ways to say it. People talk about closed fist things of being a Christian and open fist. My nails are very long. I need to cut them. And they're like, oh, well, if you believe a few simple things, you can, go to heaven. And that's all we got to do, right? Well, there's definitely maturity in the Christian faith and walk That doesn't make you a better or a worse Christian or any more or less saved, but is definitely more glorifying to the Lord while you are here on earth. Even though here on earth is a blip and a vapor, it's very short. We are here for nothing else than bringing him glory. I was going to say, if nothing else, but we literally aren't here for any other reason. Nothing else truly matters. So if you are going to live a life that you also deem important or fun or necessary outside of a bringing glory to God sort of way, which we would also want to do that in any way, but some people take it to the max, and sorry, I'm getting a little bit off topic. You can stop me whenever you want.
Mm-hmm.
People take it sometimes to the max in such a way like, I'm not going to own a car. I'm not going to own a house. I'm only going to speak about the word, and I'm going to go on mission trips, which is phenomenal. But if you're also going to have a family, own a home, live a kind of traditional sort of life, you want everything that you do to bring glory and honor to God. So this is not about being some righteous person. It's not about trying to see yourself above others, but it's about bringing glory and honor to God in everything that you do, whether it be eating or drinking. So I have a couple verses as well later.
Okay. I love the way dude said, I'm not going to speak very much. Spoke.
No, I said I have stuff to say, but it will be kind of addition to what you're saying, and I'll let you take the reins of the modesty part the most. Not that guys can't be immodest, by the way.
Sure. What did you just
Not as
say
common, though.
that I was thinking of?
Don't know.
Dang. What did you just say?
Oh, a lot of stuff.
Oh boy. I'm losing it. Golly. Okay, let me read this verse that I thought of, that I also have saved from what you said, and hopefully I'll regain my thoughts.
Okay.
1 Corinthians 6:19 through 20. Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own. You were bought with a price. So glorify God in your body. Which is kind of what you're saying, where we're literally just here for that purpose. Oh, here's what I was thinking. Sorry, I'm a little scatterbrained and I have a lot to say on the subject, so it's hard for me to kind of...
Well, we can also speak about it. Obviously, we come from an...
Let me finish my thought because I'm going to lose it again.
Go ahead.
Oh. I don't know why my mind is like this.
There's no way that you lost it. Just think for a second.
Okay, I don't know how I got to that from what you were saying. I forgot you're part of it. But a lot of people are like, if they're believers or not believers, sometimes they're like, if there was a God, he certainly wouldn't care about how long my shorts are or something as little as that. But of course he does. He knows how many hairs are on your head. He knows literally everything about you. And if we go all the way back to creation, as soon as they fell, he made them something to cover themselves up.
You would have to...
Clearly, he cares.
Yeah. Basically. If you, I just knew you were going to be upset that I already said it twice, so I just 30 times. Not upset, but a good question to ask yourself, and a good question for everyone to ask themselves, for me to ask myself, is the true reason to even bring up this topic is to really then discuss, is everything that you're doing bringing glory and honor to God? So you have to ask yourself, and there's going to be issues and sin and things that you do in your life daily that are not. So this isn't about living a perfect life, but even though we do want to strive for that, but know that we can't make it. Okay? it's a very nuanced discussion. If you're not familiar with it at all, and if you're not, please message us, contact us anyway. But anyway, what I was going to say is, you want everything that you do to potentially, at least in your own way, you want it to be leading people to Christ, but you also want it to be potentially leading someone to Christ. Now, what do I mean by this? Something that I do might not be understood by somebody else in a leading to Christ sort of way, but I could also use it as a gateway to that as well. What do I mean by this? The verse that you read, like the don't even have gold or do your hair in a nice way. There's also, this would be this would be multiple hours long to really dive into all of the original language and all other things. Not that you have to go into the original language, but it is good. We do believe that the translations are good. A lot of them, not all of them. And you don't now want to, wear a beige colored t-shirt every day and beige colored pants and a couple sand. It's not about not being well put together or caring about how you look, because this isn't necessarily, that probably couldn't in any way necessarily be saying, oh, that is an issue of, that is a heart issue. Now, I do think if you are consistently spending tons and tons of money on clothing, in comparison to the amount of money that you spend on other things that are potentially kingdom building, then that I would also say is an issue.
Yeah. We neither of us spends excessive.
Right.
We do like clothes, both of us, more than the average person, maybe.
Sure.
But like designer stuff, that's where I feel like that's
and anything we get is on a deal anyway, which doesn't make it better. It's about love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, and mind, right? So it's basically, what are you spending your time doing? What are you spending your time thinking about? And not that we're getting off track, but this is actually trying to help it get more on track. So it's not us pointing fingers at people saying, well, you're doing it the wrong way. So to get back to one of my...
every aspect of your life you should be looking at, rather than some people who are like, he doesn't care about this or that. I need to just focus on
100%
this stuff.
To get back to the point that I was trying to get to with the thing about you don't necessarily have to be totally nondescript in your clothing or spend no money on it or get hand-me-downs from somebody or find your clothes for free. It's not that aggressive in that sense. But basically, I guess the question that I would ask to somebody is, because a lot of people then want to pick apart the scripture to the point of, well, if you believe in that, why are you eating shrimp? And it's like, well, that law changed and different things. And why are you eating fish and pigs and all this stuff? And it's like, so we can't get into all those details. But one thing that I would say about this verse is that there are a couple things in there, like, well, then why are you wearing earrings? Why do you have silver and gold and these different precious metals and things like this? So we're not getting into that piece of it, but basically is you're not wanting to draw undue attention to yourself unless it is that you are put together, well spoken, well whatever. And when somebody says, why are you different? That then you say, oh, I'm a Christian. I believe that we're supposed to conduct ourselves modestly. I believe that we're supposed to conduct ourselves in such a way that we can point to Christ. So it's a nuanced situation. But then my next step would be, if you're dressing in such a way that's distracting, okay, which lots of people can and have done, I don't know how you could turn that into pointing to God.
Correct.
Which would basically be the end thing of mine. There's nothing else that would be to other people than a distraction. There is no, some people even take it in a weird way where they're like, oh, well, this is God's creation, so I think it's beautiful. And that's still not, let me tell you, that's not what guys are thinking when they are noticing more skin than usual. So anyway, it's extremely important to talk about. Esther wanted to talk about it, and I think it's obviously rampant, even in Christian circles. And another thing that I really dislike that's happening with this sort of discussion, I guess, is then people are like, oh, Christians look exactly the same as all of us, so they don't even believe what they talk about. They talk just like us. They dress just like us. They go everywhere we go. I don't go out to bars and drink all the time. I do not think that is a good look. If I was out there and somebody saw me and I'm calling myself a Christian, okay, I'm not saying that you can't go there. But I'm saying this is not a place that I regular, because I don't think it's the best use of my time. I don't see now I could be going there with pamphlets or something and trying to hand stuff out to people. But I'm saying everything you do has to be under a microscope and a lens of, for yourself, not for other people, under a microscope and a lens of, is this bringing glory and honor to God?
Golly, dude is stressing me out talking so much because I got all these thoughts.
Go ahead.
And I have thoughts on what you say, but you just never stop for me to.
Well, you just have to jump in, bro.
It's really difficult.
You just have to.
The way that you speak.
No.
It's just
When you
an endless ream. Okay.
But
Let me
even
jump-
on
let me jump in then.
Sure. But
Zip it.
even on this one, we could go back to when you talk. I usually will stop so I can hear you because you don't often. So just know that if you jump in, I'll stop so that you can.
Go ahead and give me like half a second of a pause, and then perhaps
No, because
I'll be
it's
able to-
going. You just jump
Okay.
in. You just
So-
jump in.
Very little of this time, if any, will be spent on saying what to wear and not wear because I don't think that's
Correct.
relevant. I
Correct.
think
Were you saying I was doing that? No.
No.
Okay.
I'm just saying my thoughts because I feel like
Sorry, I keep coughing.
motive is important
Mhm.
and just self-evaluation and wondering why do I want to wear certain things
Mm.
and why do I not want to wear
But
certain
you
things.
can't plead. You can't plead ignorance.
There's definitely things that I think should not be worn by anyone
Right.
ever.
Okay,
But I'm
okay.
saying I'm not going to be talking about.
Okay.
I think you shouldn't wear.
You're not
going to
spend the time
and
right
this.
now, but you do think it's important, and people shouldn't just say,
Correct,
"I
but I
think this
think
is fine, so
people-
it's fine."
Can get there with what we're saying.
Okay.
I feel like as a Christian, the thought should cross your mind like
Exactly. That's what I was just saying.
often
You can't.
as a woman.
Exactly.
Every time you go shopping, you should be thinking, is this thing modest or not?
Okay.
And it feels like we're getting farther and farther away
Mm.
from modesty. Like I see stuff walking into church that like not that many years ago you would never see in
Yeah.
a church setting. And I think
But aren't we happy that
lot
those young
of-
people are there? Are we happy?
yes,
You
but
might
it's
not
people
have
it's people that are being raised in Christian households, and I
Hmm.
am wondering. I certainly would not have been allowed to wear a lot of the things that I'm seeing.
Okay.
And also I'm not necessarily talking to like recently Christian people or non-Christians. I'm talking about people who are in the faith and care and want to grow and want to progress.
Okay.
Non-Christian people love to look at Christians and anything they do be like, "Oh, I thought you didn't like that stuff.
Mm.
You're fake. Nothing you do is what you say you believe." So even if something's like not that immodest, people love to be like, "Oh, that dress is a tiny bit too short. I thought you wanted to be modest," and all this stuff.
So is that the
even
Christian's fault, or is that
I
should
think
we take
I
that to
just
heart?
think you need to be even more careful because maybe you're wearing something that's not that immodest, but people are gonna come after you.
So you should
And-
be even more careful.
Yes, and
Mm.
I'm not like you're saying. We're not saying wear a tarp everywhere, but just you need
Not
to
that
be.
you couldn't. It's just that you don't have to.
Yeah, and I think it would be negative to go on the extreme side because then,
Not always, but generally.
yeah.
Mhm.
But another thing is a lot of times people want to comment on just how it affects like guys and be like, that's their problem. They need to
Mhm.
work on it.
Mhm.
There's that other verse that's
Which
super
they do, by the way.
super commonly referenced, which is if a man looks at a woman lustfully
Mhm.
and it causes him to sin, pluck your own eyes out.
Mhm.
And people love to
I
say,
think that's
"Oh,
I think that's a
that-
mix of two, but yes.
oh, sure."
And if your eye causes you to
But-
stumble, gouge it out and throw it away.
How did you get that fast?
I already had it. Matthew 18:9.
Yeah. So we're not saying that you need to do everything right so that men can do whatever they want. Men need to be
Correct.
dealing with their own
Temptation.
stuff.
Temptation isn't sin.
Correct.
Seeing it isn't sin because you can't get away from it. We live in a fallen world. We are in the
Mhm.
world. We're not of the world. And that's the side of this that I will err on the whole time, which is just we're supposed to be different. My dad's favorite thing all the time was be peculiar, which I loved. It's just to be different. You see people dressing one way, dress a different way. I mean, literally, you
Mhm.
almost
Yeah.
could do it that simply, and you'd be off pretty good. The
Yeah,
Bible is
just-
so specific all the time about how it's mainly about being different, not for the fun of it, not to be weird, not well, I'm different. It's not about that, and you also can't talk about well, I'm different, so I'm better. That also then ruins it.
Mhm.
It's be peculiar, be different, be in the world, not of the world, and that's the side of the conversation that I will always err on. And I have another good one to throw in there when you.
But the other thing is, a lot of times they don't think that it's not just men that it can stumble. You can stumble other women, which I have struggled with often, and you can stumble little children and little girls and also just little boys that don't have not control, that aren't as mature and can't decide like you're saying. Temptation isn't the problem. They don't know what to do with that temptation.
Well, temptation is a problem. Temptation isn't sin.
Yes, correct. But I'm saying like people take the route of, oh, men just need to know what to do in these situations and control themselves. A little boy doesn't have that self-control. Little children don't have that self-control. And it stumbles other women, which I said has happened to me.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if my husband's going to see all these half-naked women on the street, then why don't I just show it when I go out? Because at least he can look at his wife like that rather than all these other people.
And this will bother a lot of people. But another major one, and it happens in the church all the time too, is part of the original fall. You can say whatever you want to me. I'm not saying any of this. It's just the Bible. The original fall a big part of the fall is the woman wanting to be in charge and make the rules and do the stuff her own way. Not that man didn't sin as well, okay? We then wanted to blame the woman. Adam's like, hey, I didn't do it. It was this woman you gave to me. I'm not saying that the guy is equally
so disrespectful.
Yeah, that's
not only does he blame the woman, you also gave it to me.
So it's her fault and your fault, but not mine at all. No, 100%. The guy. I'm not saying that man has nothing, but it's absolutely written over and over that a big part of the fall is women wanting to make the rules and do the things, and women and men are equal in the sense of worth to the Lord. We are made in the Lord's image, but man is the head, and that is understood and agreed upon by Christians and needs to be
in a
or none of this will work
setting.
Yeah, go ahead and add to it, please.
Some random man in your life doesn't get to speak into
your father
life
does.
And be like, I'm a
your father
correct.
Does, right?
In a family setting, and then in a marriage is still a family
everyone's part of some family.
But I'm saying people like to take that too far and be like, if a man tells you something, shut up and listen.
Sure.
Not just some.
But also be careful not to.
In marriage and in family, 100% they should be the head. But that doesn't then give them authority to literally tell you anything, and you have to obey them.
No, of course not. But do clarify real quick that you were agreeing with what I was saying so that people don't.
Correct.
Because that was on me.
Then people like to run with that.
Oh, I'm not. Hey, guys are a huge issue. Okay, I'm not saying it has nothing to do with that. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't the only one to say it while the camera was on me, and then not have you say anything, and then have people.
Yes, I definitely agree.
Yeah.
In those settings.
You have to. Yeah, it's a lot of different things being said. I'll read this verse real quick. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Dude makes me literally want to lose my mind.
If you have something to say it.
I was at work. I work at a school watching children. It was over summer, and we don't really have a dress code because our department, the teachers and everybody does. Our department, which is just like separate, and especially over summer, is separate. We don't have a dress code. I was wearing leggings and a t-shirt. And I think I had the front of my shirt tucked into my leggings, but the back longer. So I'm on the playground. This little girl was also wearing leggings. And I saw her like glancing over at me a couple times. And I'm like, whatever, I'm just watching the kids. And then I look back over at her, and they were high-waisted leggings that I was wearing.
The ones you had.
And she was just wearing regular leggings. And she pulls her leggings up as high as she can.
To try to match yours.
To try and match mine. Cool. And I was like, dang.
That's
little kids be looking.
Oh, yeah.
And they always want to copy what they see. And I don't anymore. Not because of that story, but just because of my
You don't wear high-waisted leggings, or you...
Convictions. I don't generally ever wear leggings as pants anymore.
Or to the school.
I never wear them to school. And that's
well, you just did, you said.
Anymore.
Okay.
And I think that is now in our dress code that we're not supposed to wear leggings.
Which is good, by the way.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And I do wear them to like the gym, but I'll always wear something that's like long.
Yeah.
And covers. But people live in leggings.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying necessarily that you can't wear them. But again, just think about these things.
Mm-hmm.
That kid tried to emulate that, and that made me think, do I want other people to look like this too? Am I dressing in a way that it's good that they're reflecting that
Mm-hmm.
or
Right,
not?
right.
And to me, it wasn't.
Right, in that
With
instance.
the leggings.
Yeah, the other thing, and you can just look this up for yourself and find it. There's a lot of people, a lot of guys that are into, sleeping around, doing whatever they want. And many big names have come out later and said, what's really better is just having one person that actually really likes you and you don't cause a ton of issues running around doing whatever you want. It's so many. It's just if you just get the fruit of the spirit and the fruits of the spirit and actually consistently do them, you're set, bro. Like if you really actually do those and think about it in every instance, and I just mentioned that because I was going to say self-control. This is about the heart issues. And so then some people want to follow up with, well, this isn't an issue for me, but that doesn't work always. That doesn't always work. A lot of times that's you yourself putting yourself on top. And to play off of the other thing where I said, if we really want to truly look at the following different things and talk about woman's role in that specifically, also humanity in general and men specifically, we want power. We want to be in charge. We want to make the rules. We like that sort of thing. And that's also sin. We're not really supposed to really be we're not supposed to be adding anything to the rules. And when I say rules, that would be biblical things, 10 commandments, fruit of the spirit, things that the Lord has given to us and continues to give to us and will be the same yesterday, today, and forever. So the verse
if you start to look at them.
See how I stopped so quick and you just jumped in? Just to point that out real quick.
When you start to look at them and think about why they're in place and what life looks like if you're not doing those, it's like,
people just find out.
Of course, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's crazy. People always end up finding out sometimes on the deathbed, sometimes their kids find it out after they die, but people find out. They're just like, you know what? I thought this was the way to be and it's really not. And I'm just sad for people that didn't find it out. It doesn't make them right just because they didn't find it out. We need to do our job and get to as many people as possible. Here's the verse I was going to read. It's in the Message version, which is whatever we've read from.
Love that.
Well, I'll change it then. I was going to read from it just because it's simpler, and not that people need simpler, but it's just that, some people might have never heard the Bible. This might be the first time they're hearing it. So I will go with then, when we're talking about versions, it's, most people know. So I'm not trying to be like, here's a little lesson for you. There's different translations of the Bible. There's some that are like Old English. There's some that people will say are more original text and things of this nature. Then there's some that are easier to read. There's amplified versions. There's American Standard versions. I did King James my whole life, which some people think is crazy, but that's what my parents read. And it's very thee, thou. It's very Old English. But funny enough, I'm not seeing like ones that I'm used to seeing here. ESV, English Standard Version. It says 2016, which is interesting. Do your own research and whatever on which one that you'd like to use. I'm going to go ahead and stay with this Message one that I have just because I can't pick. This is just when Esther said she didn't really like it, it's just kind of a newer one that is simplified. And for everyone to hear and feel that they understand from an English American modern.
Golly, go ahead and read it.
Jeez. A good woman is hard to find and worth far more than diamonds. Her husband trusts her without reserve and never has reason to regret it. Never spiteful, she treats him generously all her life long. She shops around for the best yarns and cottons and enjoys knitting and sewing. She's like a trading ship that sails to faraway places and brings back exotic surprises. She's up before dawn preparing breakfast for her family and organizing her day. She looks over a field and buys it.
Sailing around looking for exotic goods too.
Surprises? Yeah, exotic surprises. What a great little phrase right there. I got to copy this down.
Also, there's similar verses just as long about what men should do. So don't cry about it, ladies.
Okay, I thought you were talking to me. Yeah. Yeah. No, please cry about it. Put it in the comments. It'd be amazing.
Golly.
Well, it's not about not offending people. That's what people should be offended sometimes.
Mm.
You know, if you're actually getting offended, a lot of times it's you, bro. Let's see. She's up before dawn preparing breakfast for her family and organizing her day. She looks over a field and buys it. Then, with the money she's put aside, plants a garden. First thing in the morning, she dresses for work, rolls up her sleeves, eager to get started. She senses the worth of her work, is in no hurry to call it quits for the day. She's skilled in the crafts of home and hearth, diligent in homemaking. She's quick to assist anyone in need, reaches out to help the poor. She doesn't worry about her family when it snows. Their winter clothes are all mended and ready to wear. She makes her own clothing and dresses in colorful linen and silks. Her husband is greatly respected when he deliberates with the city fathers. She designs gowns and sells them, brings the sweaters she knits to the dress shops. Her clothes are well made and elegant. And you might say, well, isn't that different than what from the other verse? No, it's not different. There's no contradiction in the Bible. You just have to dive deeper than what we're going to do today. And you got to do that for yourself. Her clothes are well made and elegant, and she always faces tomorrow with a smile. When she speaks, she has something worthwhile to say, and she always says it kindly. She keeps an eye on everyone in her household and keeps them all busy and productive. Her children respect and bless her. Her husband joins in with words of praise. Many women, this is in quotes, many women have done wonderful things, but you've outclassed them all. Charm can mislead, and beauty soon fades. The woman to be admired and praised is the woman who lives in the fear of God. Give her everything she deserves. Adorn her life with praises. Proverbs 31:10-31, the Message version. So here's the thing. Like Esther said towards the beginning, like, oh, it's not just about women, there's men's one too. If you hear that and get offended, there's something already wrong with you, because that's only positive, amazing, fantastic, talking about how amazing women are. So if you think the Bible,
say that made me feel like I'm not doing enough, and that's like what you're saying. It's good.
You were mad at the verse. You were mad at yourself.
It's good to be offended. I'm not offended by that, but it's good to feel like, oh, that doesn't sound like me. Because then, okay, try then. Do better.
Exactly. There was a way somebody had said it before that I really liked, and they were like, you're not hearing some audible voice of God, boom from the sky. Your conscience and hearing the Lord sounds a lot like your voice, but aligns with the Bible. And basically what that means is the voice inside of your head, conscience, all these things, when you hear these words that I'm using, basically the thing inside of you that's saying something's good or something's bad, where do you think that came from? Oh, society, and it's been implemented for years and people made it up. No, it's not made up. You're born with it. You are born in sin, but you are also born in the image of God. So the sin is because of the fall, but the image of God is because that's how we were originally designed. And that thing that you feel when you do something and then feel like, oh, I should go apologize to that person. Oh, I shouldn't have done that, is your conscience. And over time, you can sear it to the point of you hearing that offends you rather than sparks a new vigor inside of you that makes you want to do something. You hear something like that, and that should just make you feel like women are the most amazing thing ever. That's what I was trying. And the Bible,
you should be always striving to be the best and
yes,
striving to do better. And so maybe you're not wearing anything that you shouldn't, but you can always strive.
You can always do better. And sometimes people will point out certain things in the Bible. Well, the Bible talks about this, that, the other stuff. The Bible's also a history book, a true one, one that you can actually trust. And others you can as well. I'm not saying some conspiracy theory thing. I'm just saying there are things in the Bible that are like, whoa, this is crazy. It's a history book, okay? There's things in there that weren't good that happened that it wrote down, okay? But Christianity does not put women down in any way, shape, or form. Like when I said men is the head of the household. That's biblical. Okay. That's not putting women down at all, because then if you keep reading, any leaders, any kings, any people that were in charge, they were supposed to be washing everybody else's feet. They were supposed to be not at the head in some big chair waiting around for everybody to do the work. They were supposed to take the worst seat. They were supposed to do the servant's work, a servant's heart. So if these sorts of things make you feel like, oh, how could the Bible say that and stuff? Because I don't even care what you think about what I say. I don't care at all. But I do care what you think the Bible says. So if you become offended at it, that is the conscience been seared. That's what it truly is. If you get to the point where it's like, I feel like Esther said, you said you weren't offended by it. You actually felt like you didn't measure up, and you
Mhm.
wanted to do better with like the getting up early or
We don't need to mention the ones that I need to do
the
better,
specific ones.
sir.
Okay, fine.
Thank you very much.
Gosh, I don't do a lot of those things. I mean, if this is what it's saying for the woman to
That
do,
is funny though, because it talks about a lot of like work stuff and
Oh,
a lot
yeah,
of like
and
Christian
business.
men are like, I want a stay-at-home wife to take care of the
no,
children.
that was
That's all.
business. Are you
And
kidding
she'd be
me?
selling stuff and doing all
Look at this stuff.
stuff.
She is a shops around for the best yarn discount, enjoys knitting and sewing. She's like a trading ship that sails to far away places and brings back exotic surprises. She's up before dawn. She's buying land. She's
that's
selling it, taking the money to then do like, and then you think why I talk
in
to,
the books.
and that's why I
We
think,
gotta be doing side hustles.
and that's why I talk to you all the time about wanting to do business stuff. Like there's nothing in physical life in this world. There's very few other things worth your while other than all the stuff that we just talked about than building some sort of thing that can create an income so that you can use that money in a good way, because money's powerful. The Bible, one of the most mentioned things in the Bible is money. We can be using that money for so many good things. So that's why I always talk to you about businesses. That's why I love to build them. I mean, that verse talked about it on length, that's something that, you should be doing. And I love that it's the type of stuff that we've already done. It said snowing and knit,
Snowing.
sewing and knitting. And we sold paintings. That's something that's a feminine thing. People, I mean, it's not either specifically. I'm just like, I painted my whole life, but selling paintings is something you think more of something a woman would do than a guy. And stereotypes. And and so hey, I painted flowers. I love painting flowers. I got tons of paintings of flowers. I absolutely love it. And I was never dissed or made fun of or any dumb stuff like that because I was homeschooled. So I'm sure we'll have a discussion on that too. That a lot of times you're just getting dumb things being said by other peers. The worst thing you could do is get a bunch of people the same age and the same way of thinking and put them all together and have this stupid echo chamber, which is why I don't like a lot of the ways that school's set up. I definitely don't like college. And, there's a ton of other things we could talk about. So modesty is many
you can do
things.
those things right, and you can go to those places and still get stuff.
And still be good.
He's not saying don't go to school.
Well, actually, I am. Neither of us did any college. I mean, I'm not.
I know. I mean, just like obviously, school is.
I'm not saying
there for
education isn't bad.
Yeah. There you go.
Education is not bad.
Education
is amazing.
Switch over the word I was using.
Education is amazing. I love education. I'm a teacher myself.
Slightly jump
back
here.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching a video that I'd seen already, but that I'd watched a while ago. It was a podcast on modesty.
Nice.
So I was just, getting some thoughts flowing.
Mm.
And one of the things she said, which was not a bad thing, but I'm going to say my view on it, which is slightly different. She was like, oh, there's also like different settings where you would dress differently. Like if you're at the beach, if you wore what you wear at the beach, not at the beach, that'd be weird and that'd be not fitting.
Mm.
And I don't necessarily like that, just because then people might think, oh, so if I'm going to the beach, I can wear what everybody else is wearing. And it's normal.
I also wouldn't do.
You still got to look different.
Still try to look different than the world.
Still got to look different than the world when you're at the beach.
What you see being sold at Target is the thing not to buy, because the world is buying it.
Correct. I also
That's a little too simplified,
would not wear what I wear to the beach. Probably anywhere else. But
even
it
though
looks
what you wear is
so
super modest.
drastically different than what people wear at the beach. It's
And
literally
you
a
did-
dress.
Yeah, you did specifically say we're not going to get into specifics, but you mentioned the beach, and there's obvious. So you would you never have ever worn a bikini. That's not something that you wear.
Correct.
And you've always worn one pieces. And other than that, you usually also always had a skirt, almost always.
No. I used to just wear one pieces.
Okay.
And I actually have owned a bikini, but I wore a tank top over it, so there was no point to have a bikini. But
that must have been when you were young.
Yeah, super young.
Even also dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would never do that now. But
yeah. And you wouldn't let your kids do that.
I never wore a bikini without something over it.
Right.
And I had like one ever, probably. Anyways.
You probably didn't even buy it.
Where was I going with this?
Talk about the beach and what people wear.
Also, the beach is not somewhere that I frequent at all.
And that's one of the reasons.
We go very little because I don't want to sit around and stare at a bunch of people wearing next to nothing.
Mhm.
And I also don't like the smell of the beach. But I have gone to the beach several times just in full clothes just to hang out and like eat food and stick your feet in water.
She also can't swim.
I also don't know how to swim. But that's
People are going to stop listening to These people don't know anything.
But anyways, yeah.
I know how to swim.
I don't think the beach should be somewhere you frequent often. Nobody needs to be looking at that all the time.
Right.
And you definitely shouldn't be looking like that when you go.
Right. I can't believe Esther saw that I was doing this thing with the cord and just decided to stop talking.
Sorry,
golly. Completely.
I also just
I had to get up and get a cord.
Finished a thought, so
and
I was
just stopped
thinking
speaking.
for a second. But back to swimsuits. I then started wearing one pieces, and then I'd like put something on.
Not one
when
piece
I got
anime.
put something on when I wasn't in the water, and then like we're saying, always striving to be better and striving to grow. I was
Not
like,
better. Not better. It's
well,
just
for me, yeah, I thought
always striving to be more different, to be more Christ-like.
No, not necessarily just different either. Different in a way that's honoring to God, and different in a way that is good, not just different for different sake. Even though you kind of said that earlier.
You just want to be. It's not about trying to be better.
Correct.
She was saying better than herself.
Correct.
Like, to level up.
For me, I do want to try and be better. Better than me, not better than other people.
Correct.
Because it's not, if we're talking about modesty, it's not hard to be
It's not a competition.
better than what other people are wearing. Because people are so little. You can just throw
That's
on
just like, I don't even have to be in competition with other people because they're so far behind me.
No,
but that is what you just said, though. It's a joke.
Yeah, but I'm saying like compared to what you see on magazines and stuff.
Right. Magazines. Oh my gosh, Esther just went back like 30 years.
I'm so crispy and old.
You know the magazines that you read? I have never read a magazine.
Trying to get away from like including
about people,
normal people.
Yes, I get it.
But sure, let's be toxic and also
not
just
toxic.
let's be
real.
That's not toxic. Wasn't the word that I wanted to use.
No,
let's be
that's
bold
why
or something. I don't know.
Bold, yeah.
Anyways,
bold.
It's not hard to look different than people when they're so drastically in the opposite direction. But I'm trying to be better than myself.
Yeah.
And just listen to my conscience and thoughts and reasons for doing things.
Speaking to you.
And I started deciding, wait a minute. I feel kind of like wearing a swimsuit. And it's basically like just wearing underwear. And I was like, that's because it is just wearing underwear. The bottom is nothing. So then that's when I got the little like swim dress. Because even when you're in the water, can't really tell, can't really see anything anyway. But just even that, I was like, this is uncomfortable for me. So then I went a step further and got a little swim dress, and now I'm like, nice. I've used it like twice ever because I don't be swimming, but
yeah.
But anyways, yeah, it's just about listening to your conscience, understanding why you're doing something. I still have to think about modesty.
Sure.
Every time I get dressed. Because
there's things that you've put on that you own that because you didn't put it on with another thing or have another thing on top or another thing with, you're like, it doesn't look right.
Also another thing for me personally, where I'm like, if I'm going to wear a fitted top, then I'm not going to wear fitted pants as well, because that's weird in my opinion. So I like to do everything balanced and everything so it doesn't look too
and
revealing. Because speaking of when I was younger, girl was so annoying, so dumb. Yeah. And I'd be like, oh, so to not be like immodest or provocative, I just need to cover like the top of my legs, my stomach, and my chest. And so I'd be like, oh, you know what? I could wear a strapless shirt because it would cover my chest and it's just shoulders showing. And there's nothing wrong with shoulders. Like, so just not logical. And with
I don't know about
skin
logic.
Is skin to me.
Correct.
Now, so I'm like,
no, 100%.
My shoulders showing, that's skin showing.
No, yeah, 100%.
And
the other day you were wearing something.
Immodest.
Yeah, you were wearing something. It was interesting. She wore something that ended up covering more, but it was like windowed. It was like cut in a way, and I was like, oh, that's almost. And so we talked about it. Is all I'm saying is we were like, that's interesting. And she was like, well, wait, but I'm even covered more. But it's not even just about that. It's not even like what she's saying. It's not even just about that.
People will be like, oh, kids, not kids. People can show their back. That's just a normal,
Oh,
not
you just mean like younger
explicit
people.
thing. It's just a back.
Yeah.
Men have backs. Everybody has a back. It's just normal. No, skin is skin, bro.
Yeah, I don't
And when you
understand.
show certain parts,
I don't understand that people know also how bad the world and men are becoming too, and all this crazy stuff that goes on, and they don't dress their kids any different. It's very
and they're
strange.
like, oh, get
And
these
it doesn't
men
make
help.
it any less
Lock
the
these
guy's
people
fault.
up.
It doesn't make it any less the guy's fault. People will twist what we're saying right now and say that we're saying men should be able to do whatever they want. We haven't said that
No,
once.
we're
We've
not.
said the opposite. But just to be clear one more time, it doesn't take any of the blame, any of the problem, but people want to, for some reason, just put the blame on one person. If you're saying it's just the guy's fault, you're also just as wrong, okay? And
Yeah,
you're going to
how
clip
about
that and you're going to
don't-
say that sounds bad. But how about help yourself? I'm saying help yourself.
And
I'm
I've been
saying
seeing
it's-
a lot of people,
yeah.
even non-Christian people, that are making videos going through the kids section, and they're like, why would you ever
Yeah,
put
no,
your kid in
no,
a dress
people-
that has cutouts in it? Why would you ever
Yeah,
put
no,
your kid
people
in a
are
crop
waking.
top?
People are
And
waking
people
up
are
to it,
trying
for
to be
sure.
like, you're so disgusting for thinking that way. No, you're disgusting for wanting your kid to be wearing it
They don't
or
want.
letting.
Yeah, I think
Because
that's the
kids
word I
want to
would
do
use.
a lot of stupid stuff.
No, but the kid
So-
doesn't even dress themselves, so it is odd.
yeah,
it's
but
the
you take
parent.
it through a clothing section, and they'll say things that they want or not.
Well, that's all.
but
That's
it's
that's
based
all.
on
That's
nothing.
but that's
They'll
all
just
that's
be like,
there.
oh, I
though.
like this color.
But that's all that's there.
That's what I'm saying. So
Well,
you need to.
Well, right, but so the issue has become is it's rampant. It's absolutely everywhere. And like you're saying, even people that wouldn't generally necessarily agree or lean into what we're saying have even said, wait a second, this is weird. Why is this even here? What is this text on here? Why is the text in this place? What are these clothes? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And people are realizing that. So what is also cool is
But it's just
we're not even
also
saying a super out of the blue
progressively,
thing
I feel like,
anymore.
getting worse.
Yeah,
And
but
I
also
feel
let's
like
be
it will.
careful. I always like to be careful about
Well,
that
like I said,
too.
Just when I was younger, and I'm not that old, even though I just said I was crispy and old, that wouldn't even be in the kids section ever.
I don't
it didn't
think
exist.
I don't think you're necessarily right about that, or have
I am.
enough.
Not
men.
a
I don't know
single
if-
time did I go into the kids' clothing section, and I still loved clothes as a kid too. So I remember, and I literally remember
All I'm saying,
whole clothing
all I'm
items
saying
and
is
outfits
this
that
is
I had.
also not-
Can I finish?
yeah, of course. Just don't
I-
slam the table because it shakes the cameras.
I remember like
Mhm.
half my wardrobe as a child because I was obsessed with clothes from a young
Oh.
age, and I know for a fact there was
But
not.
your parents also weren't
there
getting you
was-
that stuff.
Yeah, I know. But going to Target and these random
I guess I didn't
big
go to
places that they are now in, you didn't ever see a children's dress that had cutouts at the back or stomach.
Okay.
That
I
just
wouldn't know or remember.
exist.
The other thing that I also don't want this to be a finger pointing or it's pretty late and almost like dark outside, and a bird was just chirping, which I found
They be
odd.
chirping all the time. They chirp in the dead of night, bro.
But they don't.
They do.
The only time I ever heard that was
Only
at
in
your...
certain places do you notice. In my parents' house in
Yeah, they
Pittsburgh,
always did it.
every night, the entire night, they would
Yo,
be chirping.
she just threw the city out there. Just for free.
There's a lot of people there, bro. I think
not-
it's okay.
This is not a finger pointing to a certain time.
There's also 2 Pittsburghs, baby. You got
No, there's lots of
there's a
Pittsburghs.
lot actually, but
Um,
2 come to my mind.
yes.
And they're in whole different states.
Yes, this is not finger pointing to a certain generation or age range either. And why do I want to be careful
Also,
about that?
and
It's
I'm
about
not
being
saying
careful.
that. Oh, back in the day, nobody had issues.
Right.
The same issues exist now that existed
Right.
when the world began.
We've progressed.
Well, after the
in
fall.
some ways, things have progressed, and I never want to be, just me personally, this is not based on any particular thing. I never want to be like, oh, it's so bad now, I wish I lived in a different time, or oh, we are here for a reason at this time, whatever it may be. We're not always going to perfectly know, but this is not a finger pointing at a certain generation. We've seen a lot of people are seeing a lot of more young people coming back to church, which is amazing. You don't need to be perfect to come to church. You don't need to have your life figured out. You can come and walk in that way. Once you're a Christian, you're not perfect. You're not doing everything perfect every day, but you are striving to be better every day. That's part
Correct,
of
but
the Christian
emphasis on the
walk.
better every day. You don't have to start coming to church and be like, "Oh boy, gotta start running
Right. It
on
takes,
every aspect of my life to
yeah.
get to where it should
Yeah, it
be."
takes time. And so
Literally,
this
yeah,
is,
it's just about being better than you were
yeah,
yesterday,
this is
and
one
it's
piece.
only on a scale of yourself.
Yep. This is one piece of it, and something that, obviously you can see Esther herself is passionate about, which is great. And that's the other thing, like, as time goes on and people are starting to realize, just because, people say, whoa, how does everybody hear about, um, this thing that happened so quickly? And people say that even more and more all the time. Every couple months, people are like, "How did we hear about this so quick?" More people have social media, more things are being posted, and as time goes on, and I'm sure you're already noticing it, if you're really truthful with yourself and don't become offended, I think you're probably noticing that, you know, an issue that has arisen, and this is not about girls doing something to get attention from guys or men doing stuff to get attention from women. It's not about that. There's also just things that are true. And again, if you're not like, um, thinking about yourself all the time, or worried about your feelings, you would just know it's true. A lot of the ways in here, I'll just go to Esther and ask her a question. Um, why are women a lot of times dressing the way that they dress?
To get attention.
Right, to get attention, right? And that's normal. And there's a lot of things that I do to get attention. What is it generally for men? Money and possessions. And that's also not a good thing. I'm not supposed to be prideful in my money or my possessions and things of this nature, but guys love doing that. Guys love having extra stuff. Guys love talking about what they've done, what they're doing, their status. Okay? And these
But
are just
also,
true.
I don't like to. I mean, obviously, not saying your point isn't valid, but
Yeah.
then on every point, I like to elaborate because some
Please.
people take it too far. Then people would be like, "Oh, well, if I'm wearing this super revealing outfit, not to attract the male gaze,
Then it
I
doesn't
can wear
matter.
it
Right.
because I'm
Which
just
is
wearing
also
it
not true.
because I like it,
Right.
and it's not to stumble anyone, and it's not to this. You
And
can't.
people are,
It doesn't make it not stumble someone, and it
yeah.
doesn't make you not look a certain
Yeah.
way.
So what I was
Just
trying to get
because you
to,
don't
right.
necessarily wear it for the wrong reason, which I think you can't wear certain stuff
Right.
and say, "Oh, it's not for any
Yeah.
certain reason. It's just because
So
it's
what
nice."
I was trying to get to with that, I just want to be very personal with what I'm saying, and I'm not tiptoeing around anything. I would happily, say something that offends you if I think it would help you. And I'm looking at the camera because I was talking to you. Um, I would happily do that, not to offend you, but if it's true and offensive, I wouldn't want you to be upset. I wouldn't want to offend you.
And you could apologize that it offends them,
Correct.
but just be
Correct.
like, "I
But
think
if
this is
it's
helpful."
something that's beneficial and not something that I made up, it's not my wisdom, it's not my knowledge. I don't really, my personal thoughts and feelings don't really matter. They don't truly matter. The ones that align and are true and biblically based and are based in wisdom, um, those do matter, but I didn't make them up. So anyway, I just want to be very careful with how I'm stating things because I want it to be true, not because I'm trying to be careful about what I'm saying. Um, People are now more so starting to say these things like, "Oh, I wouldn't even want to." Guys, let me be specific. Guys are now saying a lot like, "Oh, I don't want to date that girl. She posts everything online. That she just everybody knows her." You know what I'm saying? Like that's not I'm not even interested. And I'll just leave that there. And then same thing with guys. So I'm not, because again, this is not guys against girls or girls against guys, but there are also real things from creation, from what has happened, that there are just real things, and that we're not going to talk about every single one right here, but guys as well. You don't want to be with some guy that just sleeps around all the time. You wouldn't want to do that either. And I know generally that um, that phrase is not usually said that way, but what I'm trying to say is there's some pretty big influencer, well-known type guys that they're like, "Yo, you only have one wife? I got 10." Like crazy things, and they're pretty famous. And this is not good either. This is just as bad. Okay, this is, and what I mean by just as bad, it's in the same vein of a similar topic that we're talking about. So all I'm saying is people are starting to realize this. And what I'm getting at is that is your conscience speaking to you. And if you ever feel a little tinge, a little quickening of the spirit, that it's like, this feels wrong, this feels bad, this feels, what did you say? Like, you didn't say icky. I know that's weird, but that word just came to mind. What did you say when you were wearing the one piece suit, but then
Uncomfortable, I think.
yeah, uncomfortable or whatever, or just like just like, yeah, this feels weird. That's your conscience. Okay, that was naturally born into you. That was given to you. That's a gift.
Has levels. Like, you don't one day
Right. It's a
have
muscle that you
thought
worked
and
out.
think, oh, I mean, sometimes you do. I don't like this certain thing. Let me get as far away from that thing as possible.
Which
sometimes
would be great.
You're like,
but yes.
true. But
right.
sometimes you're like, oh,
I need to work on this.
This needs to be a little better. You go to that step, and then maybe you grow and don't
Right.
have, and you fall back on that, and then
Right.
it's like, oh, maybe
Need to work on
that
this.
where you felt good and comfortable now, maybe that doesn't feel good anymore.
Right.
And now you go a different step.
Maybe that
Like I'm
changes
saying,
again.
a progression of
Yep.
what I wore at the beach.
Yep. Sure.
But I maybe wouldn't have got to that and what I wear now
Right.
right away,
Right away.
which I didn't.
You right. And same
And that's
with
where that's that continuous
the-
growth and continuous looking
the
at yourself and your
conscience-
past and growing.
if the conscience can become seared, the conscience can also become softened. And these things take time. Both ways. The softening of it takes time. The searing of it takes time. The softening of it is, it's been seared, now I need to soften it more, but you don't ever arrive. It's never soft enough because we're imperfect. So you're always working on it every day. I wanted to get a verse real quick. 1 Timothy, I haven't even read it yet, so it might not be the one, but I'm just going to go for it. 1 Timothy 4, 1-5, King James Version. So this is the version that I would have read a lot been read to a lot as a young person. Now the Spirit speaketh expressly, that in the latter time some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, speaking lies in hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron. So basically, I just wanted to read a verse about that because I've said searing your conscience multiple times, and I just wanted to get a verse. Let me see what it will come up for. I wish I had more of this memorized, by the way. Softening of the conscience. I don't want you to listen to me because I said it. I want you to know that these things come from the Bible. And I know there is one, but I can't think of the address. Ezekiel 36:26. I will give you a new heart, a new spirit. Softening of the heart. That's another common phrase of it rather than conscience. Conscience, spirit. It said quickening of the spirit. These things. It's beautiful. Also, the Bible is just beautiful in its writing as well. Ezekiel 36:26-27. I will give you a new heart and a new spirit I will put within you, and I will remove the heart of stone, the hard conscience, the hard heart, the stone, from your flesh and give you a heart of flesh, soft. And I will put my spirit within you and cause you to walk with my statutes and be careful to obey my rules. I mean, everything we just talked about, this whole, we've been talking for over an hour, is right there. So I'm going to read it again. Ezekiel 36:26-27. I will give you a new heart and a new spirit. This is God, I. He's the I. You are any human. I will give you a new heart and a new spirit I will put within you, and I will remove the heart of stone from your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. And I will put my spirit within you and cause you to walk in my statutes and be careful to obey my rules. So if you already, even people in the church, I'm not even saying people that I know personally, I'm just saying, even people in the church, people that call themselves Christians, they will read a verse and become offended. Or try to read in between the lines or say, that's not what it means anymore. Why are you doing that?
And you also can't just take a verse or two.
Correct.
And think to yourself, let me know exactly what this means. No.
There's a lot more work
the whole
that needs to be done.
thing. You need to look at the context, look at who it was being said to.
Yeah. If someone's calling themselves a Christian and then they try to redefine different verses that bruh. I obviously believe in the
But then, of course, also you can think of coming to faith for the first time, and maybe you don't even know what's in the Bible. It's going to take time to go through it and be able to understand it. So we're not saying that you need to have all this stuff on lock the moment you profess to believe.
And something,
it's a continuous
and something very important,
and going through, even if you have read the whole thing,
right?
Because it can tell you something that it didn't the first time.
And whether or not you are a Christian watching this, Christians and non-Christians will have a lot of different questions for us, but I can say one thing that can help with a lot of it, and it would just be good that everybody would know, which is basically the book of the scripture, the books of the scripture must be acknowledged as teaching solidity faithfully without error. So we believe the Bible cover to cover, Old Testament, New Testament. We believe it's all true, and we don't believe what our church says. We don't believe what our pastor says. We believe what the Bible says. So if they say something different than it, then we would question it. Okay. So the Bible is what we care about. We don't go to a church that teaches some specific thing that's different from the Bible. We wouldn't go to a church that does that. We haven't gone to that in the past. You know what I'm saying? What I'm basically trying to say is that we don't add or take away anything from it. So we read it as is, and we believe it as is. So we'll have a lot more to talk about this in the future. Thank you, Esther, for wanting to have a specific talk on that. You are folding up a little piece of paper as many times as you possibly can. Do you know it's impossible to fold paper past a certain amount? And if you do, it explodes.
I did quite well with not fidgeting this time.
Because you were talking about something you are passionate about.
Yes, but also I felt a little unorganized still in my thoughts, and I have endless more on the topic.
And a good one, and a great thing.
We'll get there when we get there.
Yes, and a great thing outside of modesty was that verse that we read. Esther's got to start a couple of businesses. She's got to become a ship.
Golly.
She's got to be a wayfarer and buy a bunch of stuff. She's got to learn how to make clothes.
Let's cut them off right now and move past that.
Yeah.
Something we did not get into, which I also have thought about.
She's got to wake up early. She's got to make breakfast.
Shut up. Is modesty in... Back to that first verse that I read, modesty in
had nothing
action and how you interact with people and how you...
Which would much more apply to me. All right.
Sorry, I won't.
No, that's great. No, that's great. It's already been over an hour, but I 100% thought that as well when I read modesty and it was action and interaction and speak. I was like, oh, dang, that's me. I got to work on that. So anyway, good to see you guys. And I have no idea why I just made finger guns towards the camera. And we'll see you guys next time.